Okay, hey everybody, hope you're having a good start to your week. This is going to be, let me make sure this is sharing. Okay, this is going to be the video for QUBIC. I am just going to talk about Bitcoin real quick here, just because it did make the move that I was hoping it would. There's a lot of people saying it had to come down first, but to me, it looked like it was going to hold what it had and make its move back up. I mean, honestly, I thought it was going to sweep down here first, but this is a really strong push up. I am a little bit concerned here. I don't think it's going to push directly through this area, and I'll show you why just briefly. It may just turn this into the new range here, but it is good to see it move up. There is a lot of chop that happened here back in, what was this, 2022, early 2022. And here's your point of control. This, I mean, for this, I think I actually had this moved. Hang on. That's why it's looking weird. Yeah. So the value area high was kind of close to here. I moved it up a little bit because I felt like it was closer to this order block. And the value area low here, I actually moved it up a little bit because I felt like it was more like here in the this little support area. And the nodes here kind of support that. Here's where most of the um, the volume takes place, right here at point of control. And that's what makes this tool right here, fixed range volume profile. That's what makes it so useful, is it immediately finds where most of the action's taking place. And you can see back here, early 2022, it was kind of like a magnet. It just kind of created a support resistance area. It was bullish if it was above that area. It was bearish if it was below it. So anyway, I made some notations here that this was the value area high we had to get above. So if we get a daily close above that, that's great. I think we're going to create a new range, maybe move up higher. And then, of course, we do have to be concerned with that this could be a fake out. So we do need to see a daily candle close before we're certain that this is an actual breakout. And there's a lot of, let's just see what that looks like. There's a pretty good node right there. It's probably half the size of this point of control. So if you imagine it had to work through a lot of this previous chop right there, then it's going to need some sideways action here, I would think anyway. But main point is we're getting bullish again. That's good. Just see if there's anything else here. I don't think so. I mean, this is the rejection point currently. A daily close above this one, I think, would push us up to 57K. And a lot of people would be real surprised by that, but it could happen. There is another little node right here. I think that's why I had that pulled before. I was just trying to see what the volume looked like right here. It's a much smaller node, and there's a big gap between here. So, this is an order block as well. It could come up here and reject there as well if we get above whatever this is, 47. We'll just call it 47.2. Money flow thick than the green on the daily. 4 hour got red for a little bit. It's thick again. Anytime you get above this line on the market side for it's bullish. But you can see we did fake out here as well, and it came right back down. So we'll just have to see how it plays out. Everything looks fine to me so far. Okay, so jumping into QUBIC, the first thing I wanted to talk about, and I'm going to try to go through this as fast as I can. I'm no expert on this stuff. I try to present it in a way that everybody can understand because I'm just like you. I'm learning this stuff as I go. I feel like I have a much better grasp on charting than I do with the fundamental analysis of things, but I'm trying to develop that more and more. And I'll tell you the reason I feel that way is because I believe a lot of the market is run by algorithms, and it's run by all these exchanges are tied together. That's why the user interface looks the same for all of them. And I believe it's an AI algorithm that's running most of the price action. Like if you were to fat finger a big buy, and I've talked about this before, you'll see that it'll wick right back down to pretty close to where you bought it. So there's always buyers and sellers. We need that liquidity. So it's good that we have market makers. It's good that we have the AI, helping to keep things balanced in the market. So, even though I feel like a lot of the money is printed, it's not really all organic price action. you got the money printer going off, and whatever the entity is that's buying and selling, they are the ones providing the liquidity. So even though it's a bad thing, it's also a good thing at the same time. So if we look at sector flows here, a lot of people have been going to currency, to stable coins lately. We looked at that last video, but I thought it interesting that I had talked about, I guess it was about a week or so ago, to watch DeFi, that it might get going after this dip. And it looks like that's happening, possibly. I mean, look how hard DeFi got hit over the last 7 days. Like money just poured out of it. And it dipped harder than just about anything else. But now money's coming back into it because it's way oversold. So this could be an area to look for good deals. Scaling connectivity, that's kind of like your layer one. So it's good to see that coming back. Actually, it didn't really go anywhere. It's been pretty steady. I think Ethereum might fall into this category. I'm not sure, but I know Ethereum would at least fall into consensus. Let's see. Is that even on here? It was on here earlier today. Well, consensus layer was in the green earlier, but now it's not. So that was really going to make my point that QUBIC could see a little boost out of this, once Bitcoin settled down again out of this dip. But it's held pretty well, and I'll show you here on the chart. QUBIC's done a really good job of, it did like a 10x move, came up here, faked out, kind of like Bitcoin did, did another fake out, and now it's still, even though I can't pull this up on TradingView, which I wish I could, because I can't use any of my tools to be able to look at it, like money flow or volume profiles, that sort of thing. But you can tell that the point of control is kind of right here where it's at. Like if you were to put a line right in the middle of all this price action, you can see how it was kind of a magnet right in this area. As soon as it got above, it came back below it, acted like a magnet again. Now it's right back to it. I guess the thing that I like about it is it's holding the gains that it had created from down here, that 10x move or whatever it is. And it's provided a nice place to accumulate during this consolidation, or I guess you call it a reaccumulation. Let me see, what was I going to bring up here? Bear with me 1 second, because I had something I wanted to bring up here. Here it is. I showed this in a previous video, I believe, maybe the last one that I did. But what I like about this reaccumulation chart here, if you look just in this green area, you'll see how this looks very similar. I mean, it wasn't a big move up like this was, but it did gradually move up right here into this, basically a fake out. And then it came back down and did a spring, and then it came up and did a retest. So, taking it from here at the very beginning of that green area, you had this first, what looked like maybe just a shallow reaccumulation before another move. And that's what this was. And then you had this push up. That's what this is. It came back down and created a spring. That's what that is, because this spring is actually under all this price action, or at the bottom of it, this secondary support down here. And then it got back above and it retested. And I think that's what's happening now. We'll just have to see. And I'm putting all the juicy stuff here at the very beginning, just in case there's somebody that doesn't care about all the, the, what do you call it? The fundamental stuff. As far as the chart goes, it looks real good. Yeah, so we want to see this hold. At the very minimum, you definitely want to see this 2,700 area hold. And that's 2,700 Satoshis. I eliminate all the zeros because I don't want to say the zeros every time. But according to that chart that we just looked at, we should see, at least at the very least, a gradual move headed back up. So I think this is a good place to continue to accumulate. This coin really hasn't done much. I mean, for how revolutionary it is as a layer one, and the development of AI, and pushing the boundaries, and I'll get in all that in a second here. So currently 248 million market cap. Let's see. Yeah, it's showing it's about like an 8x move from the bottom, but I think it could be more like 10. Max supply, I believe, is capped at 1 trillion, but I'll have to, don't hold me to that because I'm not positive on that. So this is something I found really interesting. I was going through, this is the creator of QUBIC. He's also the creator of NXT and IOTA back in 27. Well, he created it much earlier than that, but that's when these things were pumping so hard. And a lot of people think that, whatever this person, and I think his name's Sergey, whatever he touches turns to gold. And according to this, it kind of supports that idea because you've got the top crypto deals of 2017. Um, what does it say in 614x? Oh yeah, okay. So IOTA from its inception in 2017 at the top, it did, I don't even know what that is. Anyway, it's 600 and roughly 615,000 percentage from the bottom to the top. What is that? 6,150x maybe? I don't even know what that is. That's a lot. No, it's more than that, isn't it? I'm going to look at another one here that'll say what exactly it is. But he created IOTA, he created NXT. And the interesting thing about IOTA is that there are some elements of QUBIC that it just seems like he's got a progression going, right? Like he developed some things with IOTA. He's the type of person that has a lot of drive. He wants to push the boundaries. He's got a lot of technical experience. He's a coder. He's a leader in the space. He was one of the top three, or the first three people to ever mine a Bitcoin, and that can be verified. Um, so, he's got a lot of technical experience that allowed him to be able to do these things, is the point. And he's really interesting too. I mean, if you go and look at his replies on his Twitter, it's entertaining. I mean, there's a lot of people. I guess he's just a very polarizing figure because he'll have a couple of people every once in a while get on there and FUD QUBIC for whatever reason, or talk about IOTA from back when he was a part of IOTA. I don't think he is anymore, but um, I'm pretty sure he's just focusing on QUBIC and something else called AI Garth. But anyway, it's just funny. He'll interact with them, and he doesn't pull any punches. He gives it right back to them. All right, so here's a site called coinbureau.com that has the top 2017 coins, or actually the top 10 most performant ICOs. I don't know if that's all time or what it might be, or how recent this has been updated. Anyway, number one is NXT. It's 128,000x. I mean, we're not even talking about percentage, right? This is like, I don't even know what that number would be. Just for fun, let's say if you put 100 into it at the very bottom, times 128,571, you would have made $12 million, almost 13 million, just off a $100 investment. And none of this is financial advice, of course. I'm just showing you some history here and what it would look like if you would have entered something like this. And if we go down, so that's number one. If we go down to number three, this is the IOTA, much more reasonable, 13,000x. So 100 times 13, 110. You would have made $1 million. So it's clear to see that whenever he builds something, he follows through. From what I can tell anyway, then he followed through on these two projects. I don't know about any other projects, uh, but he does get detractors, people that try to challenge him on things, but he always has an answer for them. So to me, so far from what I've seen, it seems like those few people that show up to bag on him are just fudders, and maybe they don't like him for whatever reason, or maybe they're jealous. But that's the way I see it from what I've from my studying on it. Okay, let me see if I can share sound here real quick. I'm just going to let this play. This was a video from back 5 years ago. This person on CoinSider. Is that the same site I just looked at? No, that's Coin Bureau. Anyway, he talks about a possible use case for QUBIC. So I want to play this. Hang on one second. Hopefully this works.
What are some possible use cases to kind of help wrap our minds around this QUBIC protocol? Well, I got this snapshot when doing research on Reddit, but this user called Alib user kind of was doing some brainstorming about how QUBIC and IOTA can revolutionize smart cities, for example, and help them self-optimize. So if there's a lot of sensors, smart devices, smart cars going around, there can be oracles that kind of get data from these different sensors, and then optimization QUBICs that take these data and kind of do like traffic optimization, then feed them to different devices that can help with traffic optimization. So all this can be done with different QUBICs and just with using all of the QUBIC protocol's main features like outsourced computations, oracles, smart contracts, etc. So what does this mean for IOTA?
Okay, so basically he was at that time, QUBIC was pretty much nothing. It was just a dream in a way. Maybe he had, CFB had started working on it at that point, but this person was just talking about how it would apply to IOTA at the time because people were real excited about it back then because it was doing real well. Okay, let me turn that off. Make sure I'm not sharing sound because I do like to play music for me while I'm doing these that you can't hear. Okay. So the rest of this is mostly going to be technical things or just looking into what QUBIC actually does and how it is, kind of disrupting and doing things that nobody else is doing right now. Not saying that everything it's doing is that way, but some of the things it's doing is. So, again, he's being a leader in the space and trying to push the boundaries and help us be more scalable in the future so that we really can embrace that technology and make that next step into the future because we're going to need this, right? I mean, this is the infrastructure we've got to have if the future is actually going to happen. Here's a guy named Bullbags on Twitter at Andrew Crypto BDM, and he did a good job of taking pretty much all the information and trying to condense it. And I'll look more into some of these things, but I'm just going to go over a few things that he talked about. So instant finality, and the finality is just dealing with, the smart contract finishing to completion, uh, all the nodes and computations and everything just all happening much more quickly. 40 million TPS. Oh, this was really interesting. So QUBIC runs without an operating system on bare metal servers, and it runs entirely out of RAM. I think it also for the people running nodes, I believe, or miners, sorry, I believe that it runs off the CPU and not the GPU, which that helps them to keep costs down because we know when you're building a miner to mine whatever coin, you're usually spending most of that money on GPUs because they're just so expensive. Let's see. QUBIC transactions don't have any transaction fees. That's good. AI training being used as proof of work. Actually, it's called useful proof of work. I'm going to go into that here in a second. Here he actually says that useful proof of work creates AI data sets. And I'll go into that in a little bit more detail in a second. AI Garth is being built in parallel to QUBIC. And what they're trying to do is get to the point where they have true AI. And that's where I don't want to speak to that just yet because there is one more thing that I wanted to get to, but um, I am going to answer this part of it here a little bit later as far as the true AI. So let me get to that part later. Let's see. So this right here, I was just thinking about this. Um, like Terminator and those kind of movies where once we allow AI to take over, once we allow AI to get out of the box that we've created for it, what happens? Is that the end of the world? And that's what I was thinking of here. QUBIC's Oracle machines will give AI ability to observe the outer world. And you'll see that with like Chat GPT or other things where it says, especially the early versions of it, it would say something like it was just using information from back in, up to 2021 or something like that. So it wasn't really using existing information. And I think part of that is developers want to make sure that the right parameters are in place before they release AI out into the wild, basically. So that'd be interesting, to see how, because I do remember that. I don't remember if it was Microsoft or who it was, but it seems like it was maybe 10 years ago. There was an AI that it was like a text to speech AI or something that they released, and it took a lot of the outside information, like on forums or whatever Twitter was back then. Maybe Twitter was around back then. I don't remember, but it grabbed a lot of the stuff. It became racist. It became, neo-Nazi. There's a lot of reasons that they had to pull it down. Okay. So the more interactions with smart contracts in the Cubic ecosystem, the more deflationary the project becomes. It's possible for the market cap to drop while the price rises. And actually, let me pull up one thing while I'm talking about that. I think it's this one. Yeah, so this person asked, how does the burn mechanism work? And Come From Beyond said, every user transaction to a smart contract, every contract invoking another contract. He's just basically going through all the things that could happen that will eventually cause a burn in coins, and every QUBIC holder gets the benefit of that burn. Oh, actually, he answered that right there, didn't he? Anyway, then now you can see that came straight from Come From Beyond. Multiple burning mechanisms create a deflationary economy as usage increases. No internet connection required. So I guess I didn't really get into this, but just so everybody knows, this is a layer one token, just like if it was, Ethereum's layer one, but it is infrastructure. If you imagine that you were building a home or building a city, you would want to make sure that the basic infrastructure that is put in place. Well, you know what? I'll use a computer as an example. So, like, you got your computer. Most of you have probably built one. You got the case. You've got a motherboard, and that's kind of like your infrastructure, your where you begin, where you start to build, and then you plug other things into it. And that's a good way to look at it. Um, and I won't really go much further than that. I just want to make sure everybody understands what a layer one actually is. Of course, that's very simplistic, but anyway. Oh, something I completely forgot to mention. Here's Braver Crypto. And he's at Braver Crypto, just like that. I had forgotten that he's the one that actually turned me on to QUBIC. So I just, wanted to throw his name in there for sure. Let's see, that takes care of that one. Okay, so what is useful proof of work as far as QUBIC views it, or as far as CFB views it? And this comes from docs.qubic.world. I guess this is an official. Actually, I'm not real sure this is official, but anyway, this is what I found. So to begin with, proof of work in its normal state, and we're not talking about what QUBIC is using, but the definition of proof of work is it's similar to a puzzle solving process, like if you were doing a Rubik's Cube or something, which is really interesting. I just now thought of that, QUBIC, Rubik's Cube. So whenever someone intends to make a transaction on the network, their computer must solve a complex mathematical puzzle. And I could also go into DAGs here because I actually don't even remember what DAG stands for. I'd have to look it up again. Anyway, so the difference between the typical model that you see versus what QUBIC is using, and I hope I'm not misspeaking here, but a DAG, uh, it's a group of computers in the same way, but it's not a closed loop. So whenever you get more and more computers added to the system, and this is all about fractional use of use of resources, basically. So you have a ton of people out in the world. A lot of them have computers now. If they were to use their computational power to assist QUBIC, then the AI model could learn things quicker. Transactions could happen quicker. Smart contracts completed and that sort of thing. So anyway, I'm kind of getting on a tangent there, but that's kind of how it all comes together. Let's see. So QUBIC ecosystem pushes boundaries of traditional proof of work, which this is traditional up here, by employing AI training tasks in the consensus mechanism. And then the people known as computers are using miners. And I think the ones that have the best or the most trained AI miners are the ones that make the most qubits. I think I believe is the internal token, which you can't purchase that one. That's just it's the reward for the people that are mining QUBIC. And I think that's right. So if anybody's listening to this, if I make any mistakes there, feel free to tell me in the comments that I did, and to put the actual answer if I'm wrong. Let's see. So AI training, of course, makes things more energy efficient, can optimize it better, consumes less energy than traditional POW, and the AI maintains the security and decentralization of the network. So the only problem with that, of course, is yeah, it's decentralized, but there is a little bit of a concern that AI might just run wild and do whatever it wants. But I'm sure they have systems in place for that, and those guys like CFB know a lot more on how to control those things than I do. And I actually forgot to put this near the front. This was more to do with who CFB is and what he's actually accomplished. So this is kind of like one of these people that come on here and they challenge him. And so he had the first proof of stake coin. He had the very first ICO. He had the first crypto that was not a Bitcoin clone, the very first DAG coin, and the top number one ROI Wise coin. And we just saw that. I mean, that's you can find that on the internet. That's true. Okay, so this is an unofficial white paper, and I don't want to go too much into it, but I will say that CFB actually did repost this on his Twitter. So I would suspect that he at the very least agrees with most of it, or it represents what he would say. I don't know if he's going to come out with an official one or not, but this is a good start anyway. So QUBIC is a modern crypto using a decentralized quorum consensus model. And quorum, from what I understand, I mean, just the basic definition is you need a certain number of people to agree with something for that statement to be true. So if it's like a true false statement, or if it's like a smart contract, then you have to have a certain amount of majority to agree on something for the vote to pass or the smart contract to go through. I mean, I'm just using different examples, but we know how democracy works. I mean, that's how it works. So a lot of people just hear that CFB is the creator of QUBIC, and because of his past history, that's good enough for them to just go ahead and buy some. Safe Trade, actually, people trying to buy QUBIC when it first came out, because there's a lot of followers of CFB, and they believe in what he can do as an innovator and as a coder. From what I understand, it crashed Safe Trade. Of course, Safe Trade is a good, as far as I can tell so far from using it, it's a good exchange. I haven't had any problems with it, but always when you purchase something on any exchange, I would recommend to send it to your own wallet. You want to own it, just like with gold and silver. You always want to own gold and silver. You don't want to paper trade it because it can be manipulated that way. So let's see. I just grabbed a couple things on here that I thought was interesting. Oh yeah, here's where it was talking about. I already talked about this actually. How QUBIC runs on it runs without an OS on bare metal servers, entirely out of RAM. And this person definitely thought that was a big part of it, an important part, because they repeated it here. It allows for incredible performance, and we will see other unorthodox choices in QUBIC that were made, he thinks, for the sole purpose of maximizing performance. And that's true. I mean, if if you're building an infrastructure for anything, you have to think about the future and scalability. I mean, what would happen if you got to a point where you just couldn't grow anymore? You would have to shut down that company and start a new one, or come up with some whole new technology, and it would take many, many years to come up with that. So why not just think of the scalability from the very beginning and have AI assist you somehow, since that is a possibility now? Let's see. So a live test achieved over 40 million transactions per second. That's where we looked at that Twitter post earlier. It said 40 TPS. There's no possibility of a 51% attack as there is only a single consensus for any given tick that is possible. I don't really understand that, but some of you might. So there's 676 special nodes called computers. 451 of these are required to be in sync and agree on a tick. So this is kind of like the quorum, or I mean, that's the way I would read into it anyway. You have to have. Oh yeah, he actually says it there. If a quorum is not reached for whatever reason, we get an empty tick. And I thought this was kind of like another use case. What would you call it? Anyway, this is like a use case for today, for the present time. We're so used to having unconfirmed transactions, mempools, transaction fees, maybe replacing a transaction fee to speed it up. The transaction getting stuck and us having to do some kind of crazy jump through a hoop just to get our MetaMask or whatever to where it can be used again. We want something that's going to solve that problem, and this is one of the things that could very well do that. QUBIC, the way it handles the what did it call it, the ticks, that's what it's achieving to do, is to get rid of problems like this and get rid of high fees like with Ethereum. It's actually, he's creating something that people are going to love him for, because these are problems that crypto has had for many, many years now, and there aren't many people out there trying to fix it. Let's see. So this is talking about emission. It says if you see numbers like 1 trillion per week and 1,000 trillion max supply without dividing by 100 million, you might think there are just too many QU. However, QU is the indivisible unit of QUBIC, equivalent to Satoshis for BTC. So that's interesting. I mean, like I was talking about with the price earlier, I just want to remove all the zeros, and then that way it's easier to, say how many or what the price is for QUBIC. So this person's saying there's actually 2,100 trillion Satoshis for Bitcoin max coin supply. And even now, after all the halvings, about 650 billion Satoshis per week are being emitted. And BTC has no burning mechanism like QUBIC does. So it's giving you an example. If adjusted to the normal 100 million Satoshis per coin, current supply is 780,000 with 10,000 emission per week, or a bit less than one per minute, and a max of 10 million. Without all the zeros, it's much less scary. A direct counterexample for the 1 trillion is too many coins is Doge, which emits 4,000 trillion Satoshis per week and has no burning mechanism. Yet its price is not driven down to zero. So that's a really good point. People are in love with Doge, and they especially were back in 2021. And Musk is part of that, but the other part of it is that it made a lot of millionaires. So what's to say that QUBIC can't do the very same thing? People are putting far too much concern in the emissions of QUBIC. I've seen concerns online about it before, but if they would read this, they would understand that Doge is the same way, Bitcoin's the same way, and yet those prices go up as well. And I'll just say, just in general, I wouldn't worry about it too much. Not even market cap matters that much. If you look at it, coins can go to many billions of market cap. People can make tons of money. You want to be in these projects early. Okay, so here he's talking about AI. Well, he's actually talking about, even without talking about AI, QUBIC is groundbreaking. What is he saying here? Still already a 250 million market cap, so 250 million. has been achieved, as it is clear to anybody that understands the technical underpinnings of QUBIC that even without the AI part, it is destined to be one of the top coins. And I don't see how you could uh, discredit that statement if you've got a guy in CFB that took two ICOs to top 10 all time. I think it's all time anyway. So yeah, really interesting stuff there. I mean, I tend to, when I see results like that, I tend to trust the person that's in charge. Okay, let me just go through a few more things here. I typed these things into Chat GPT just to see what it would say. Um, I had it all highlighted here before and it went away. Yeah, so decentralized nature and security. QUBIC's platform, decentralized platform ensures resilience against cyber attacks, prevents any single entity from controlling or manipulating. What did I ask here? Yeah, okay. I think I was just asking what makes it different than other layer ones. Chat GPT calls it revolutionary and it distinguishes itself from other layer ones. Here I was asking it about AI Garth, which is being developed in parallel, like we talked about earlier, looking at that other Twitter. It's being created in parallel with QUBIC by CFB and his team. Let's see. So AI Garth aims to create a collective system for solving complex AI tasks by leveraging the capabilities of distributed computing. Yeah, that's what we were talking about earlier, right? Where um, you've got all these computers out there in the world and they're not being utilized to their full potential, which is almost like thinking about, our brain is not used to its full potential. We've heard that our whole lives. We've got a lot more computing power in our brain than what we actually use. So why not use all these other CPUs around the world and this isn't revolutionary as far as this goes, as far as using other people's computers or other computers around the world. But it is good that QUBIC is utilizing that because I think that is important for scalability for sure. Let's see. So it uses an algorithm based on the Helix logic gate, which I don't really understand what that is, but it does kind of explain it here. It takes three input values and outputs them in the same order after a specific rotation. It's key to enhancing the convergence towards efficient solutions, improves upon the use of a randomly chosen logic gate. So, I mean, to me, that just sounds like progress, right? We're just trying to progress and create a better world for everybody, and AI is going to help us do that. Anyway, I'm sure I'm not really representing this correctly. There's probably much more to it. It says its innovative approach to AI, leveraging distributed computing and specialized algorithms, positions it as a potentially transformative project in the field of artificial intelligence. So that's what you want to see out of any project you're in, is somebody that's pushing the boundary and trying to get better. This talks about how he created IOTA. This is the useful proof of work. I think we already went over that pretty well, though. So a layer one forms the core and fundamental structure of any blockchain network, determining its basic operational characteristics, security, and scalability. Oh, yeah, we were going to get into what is true AI. Well, here's what ChatGPT says about it. True AI, often referred to as strong AI, is a form of AI that possesses the ability to understand, learn, and apply its intelligence to solve any problem, much like a human being. I don't think we'll ever see AI get to human being level because you can't replicate what God has done. I mean, the human brain is truly unique. So it says here, as of now, true AI remains theoretical and is a subject of ongoing research and philosophical discussion. Current AI technologies, even the most advanced ones, are considered narrow AI as they are limited to specific tasks and lack the broad, adaptable intelligence of a human being. So that's basically what we were talking about just then. But as you get more and more into machine learning, and the way that an AI learns is it does a task over and over and over until it gets to the point where it masters it. So we just keep feeding them harder and harder tasks, and eventually that AI becomes more, I don't know if you call it smarter necessarily, that's probably the wrong word, but anyway. What is DAG in a blockchain? I said that I'd go over this just so everybody understood it. It's a directed acyclic graph. Where does it say that? I read it earlier. I think you need two um, basically approvals, or each node has to approve something twice for it to send it on to the next node, or for it to create that quorum with the other nodes if something's going to get approved. There's typically no blocks in the traditional sense, consequently no miners to validate blocks. Instead, each transaction directly references and validates one or more previous transactions. So it's almost like they're daisy chained together, but not in a closed loop. So you're really you're creating a system in DAG that it takes all this combined computing power and makes something very powerful to assist with scalability, security, infrastructure, all of that. And again, I'm not doing this the service it deserves. I just wanted to go through these as fast as I could. And IOTA does use a DAG as well. So in summary, a DAG in a blockchain represents a more flexible, potentially more scalable structure for transaction processing and validation. So just talking about smart contracts, that sort of thing, offering an alternative to the traditional linear blockchain model. So you definitely don't want to be linear when you're talking about the future. You want to be scalable. You want to be able to branch out and cover a lot of different areas. Because if you're building a new system, which is exactly what's happening, all the money from the old system is going into crypto, and all the research money right now is going into AI. I mean, just look where money is going, and you'll get the idea of what's truly being developed here. It's what's the word for it? It's not an industrial revolution, but I guess it's a tech revolution. So anyway, I hope that makes a lot of sense. I know I jumped around a lot, but this is a very complex discussion. QUBIC is a complex token or project, and you don't really have to completely understand it to invest. And again, I'm not giving any financial advice here. I'm just doing this because I enjoy doing it. And since I'm learning it anyway, I might as well put it on a video. But if you were going to invest in it, which I already am, um, I think the reasons for that are pretty well laid out as far as, you got somebody that's pushing the boundaries. You got somebody that's got a history of being successful. So, I don't know. I'm not trying to hype anybody up on it, of course, but I don't know what would stop somebody from investing in this, basically. Okay. Well, I'm going to stop it there. I'll try to do some more videos soon, maybe cover some of the coins, but I think that pretty much covers QUBIC, and hope you all have a good rest of the week.